The Queen Mary, a majestic ship with a history as deep and dark as the ocean it sailed. This grand vessel, launched in 1936, was once the epitome of luxury. It whisked the rich and famous across the Atlantic in unparalleled style and comfort. Yet, as the world plunged into the throes of war, the Queen Mary was conscripted into service. Stripped of her opulence, she became the Grey Ghost, a formidable warship ferrying soldiers to the front lines. After the war, she returned to her former glory and continued carrying passengers until 1967. Now she rests in her final dock in Long Beach, California, a silent sentinel to a bygone era. But the Queen Mary is more than just an aging ocean liner. She's gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in America. But beneath the glamour and the war stories lies a chilling tale. Our spectral journey begins in the late 1930s, when the Queen Mary was still a young ship. As she elegantly cut through the waves on a transatlantic voyage, her vast Grand Queen's Salon played host to an event that would forever tint the ship's history with an eerie shade of mystery. This is the tale of the first recorded ghost story aboard the Queen Mary, the haunting of the mysterious lady in white. Passengers, caught in the throes of the ship's nightly entertainment, reported seeing a woman dressed in a flowing white gown dancing alone. Her ethereal beauty and the peculiar isolation of her dance struck an uncanny chord among the onlookers. Witness accounts, though varied in detail, painted a picture of a woman who seemed out of place, out of time. Some claimed she would vanish when approached, while others swore they saw her walk straight into the ship's grand piano, disappearing without a trace. Yet, regardless of the differing narratives, one fact remained consistent. The lady in white was no ordinary passenger. Theories began to circulate, each more intriguing than the last. Was she a heartbroken bride lost at sea during her honeymoon voyage? Or was she a former passenger, forever bound to the ship by some tragic untold story? These questions hung in the air, as tangible as the ship's foggy sea mist. Despite extensive research into passenger logs and historical records, the identity of the lady in white remains an enigma. Her spectral presence, however, continues to captivate those who step aboard the Queen Mary, adding an element of mystery and intrigue to the ship's rich history. Remember, this was just the beginning. As the Queen Mary's story unfolds, her decks, her cabins, her very walls seem to echo with a symphony of ghostly whispers. The lady in white, the first in a long line of spectral sightings, marked the start of the ship's ghostly legacy. This was just the beginning of the ship's ghostly legacy. Opening. As the Queen Mary was conscripted into service during World War II, new specters joined the ship. In the throes of the Second World War, the Queen Mary was drafted into service. Its luxurious trappings were stripped away, and in their place came stern military hardware. The Queen Mary, once a beacon of opulence, was transformed into a vessel of war. But as the ship took on this new role, it also took on new spirits born from the pain and tragedy of war. Among the most haunting tales from this era revolves around a young sailor and the infamous Door 13. The sailor, a mere 18 years old, was assigned to the engine room, a place of deafening noise, intense heat, and crushing machinery. On a fateful day in July 1947, the sailor was caught in the powerful hydraulic door number 13 during a drill. The door, known for its swift and unforgiving movement, crushed the young man to death. From that day forward, the specter of the young sailor has been reported numerous times. Workers and visitors alike have described seeing a figure dressed in blue coveralls, sometimes appearing with a wrench in hand, as if eternally performing his duties. Some have even claimed to have heard his desperate cries reverberating through the bowels of the ship. But the young sailor isn't the only spirit from the war era said to haunt the Queen Mary. There are tales of ghostly soldiers, their spectral forms appearing and disappearing at will. The sound of their heavy boots echo through the ship's corridors, a chilling reminder of the Queen Mary's wartime service. These tales, however haunting, are more than just ghost stories. They're testaments to the ship's storied past, to the lives that were intertwined with it, and to the echoes of history that refuse to be silenced. They remind us that the Queen Mary, in all its grandeur and majesty, has always been more than just a ship. It's a vessel that carries with it the echoes of its past, the spirits of those who once walked its decks, and the stories that they've left behind. Closing. The war may have ended, but for some, the battle still rages on. In the peace that followed the war, the Queen Mary returned to luxury service, but the specters remained. As the echoes of war gradually faded, the Queen Mary found herself back in the world of opulence and extravagance. But the ghosts of her past were not so easily forgotten. The post-war era was marked by a surge of ghost sightings, each tale more chilling than the last. One such story involves a little girl named Jackie. It is said that Jackie drowned in the ship's second-class swimming pool, a tragic accident that left an indelible mark on the ship's history. Ever since her untimely demise, numerous guests and crew have reported hearing the sounds of a child's laughter and splashing water around the now empty pool. Some have even claimed to see the spectral figure of a little girl, forever trapped in the moment of her death. But Jackie isn't the only spirit said to inhabit the Queen Mary. The ship's engine room is home to its own share of phantoms. The most notable of these is the apparition of a man in coveralls, often seen near the ship's door 13. The man is believed to be a crew member who was tragically crushed to death by the door during a routine drill. Each of these apparitions carries a tale of sorrow and untimely death, forever etched into the fabric of the Queen Mary. They serve as reminders of the ship's rich history, a history that extends beyond the glamour of her voyages and into the realm of the supernatural. But these are just a few of the many ghost stories associated with the Queen Mary. The ship's haunted reputation continues to grow with each passing year, drawing in those with a thirst for the unknown. And as the sun sets, the specters come out to play, each with a tale waiting to be told. Even in peacetime, the Queen Mary's deck was far from quiet. Now resting in Long Beach, the Queen Mary continues to be a hotbed of spectral activity. Time may have moved on, the ship may no longer sail the seas, but the spirits that inhabit her seem to be oblivious to this fact. They continue their ethereal existence, providing us with an intriguing blend of history and mystery. Let's delve into the most recent ghost stories, those whispered by the staff, visitors, and even professional ghost hunters who have dared to step foot on this ship of shadows. Their experiences are as diverse as the ghosts themselves, each one adding a new layer to the Queen Mary's haunted tapestry. Imagine being a member of the nighttime cleaning crew alone in the ship's vast engine room. Suddenly, you hear the distinct sound of metal clanging against metal, as if someone or something is still hard at work. This is not an isolated incident, but a recurring theme in the testimonies of many staff members. Then, there are the visitors who, while exploring the ship's corridors, have heard the laughter of children echoing through the empty halls. Some have even reported seeing a small girl dressed in 1930s clothing playing hide-and-seek around the corners. Professional ghost hunters armed with their high-tech equipment have also had their share of encounters. From unexplained temperature drops to electronic voice phenomena, they've collected compelling evidence that the Queen Mary is indeed a paranormal playground. A particularly chilling account comes from a seasoned investigator who was conducting a routine sweep of the ship's infamous room B-340. He distinctly heard a voice whisper in his ear, "Get out!" Yet when he turned, there was no one there. These stories, these experiences, they remind us that the Queen Mary's history is still very much alive. Each creaking door, each flickering light, they all hint at a presence that refuses to fade into oblivion. The Queen Mary may be retired, but her spectral crew is still on duty. And who knows, the next time you visit, you might just become a part of her haunted history. Amongst the countless ghost stories, a few stand out for their chilling details. Let's delve into some of the most chilling tales from the Queen Mary's haunted past. The ship's history is riddled with ghostly encounters, but 3 stories in particular have managed to send shivers down the spines of even the most skeptical. Firstly, let's venture into the depths of the ship's engine room, where the infamous Door 13 resides. It's said to be the site of a gruesome accident. In the late 1960s, an 18-year-old crew member was tragically crushed to death by the watertight door during a routine drill. Since then, reports of a ghostly figure dressed in blue overalls and sporting a beard have been rampant. Witnesses claim to have seen him wandering near the door, only to vanish when approached. The spirit, thought to be that of the young man, seems to be forever trapped within the ship's steel hull. Next, we move to the ship's first-class swimming pool, which, despite not being in use for several decades, is a hotspot for spectral activity. The most frequent apparition is that of a little girl named Jackie. It's believed she drowned in the pool during the Queen Mary's sailing days. Visitors and staff alike have reported hearing the sounds of a child splashing and giggling, even when the pool area is completely empty. Some have even claimed to see a small, wet handprint appear out of nowhere on the tiled edge of the pool. Jackie's playful spirit seems to have made the deserted pool her eternal playground. Lastly, we turn to the tale of the lady in white. Dressed in an elegant white evening gown, she's often seen dancing alone in the ship's ballroom. Her identity remains a mystery, but her mesmerizing presence has become one of the ship's most famous apparitions. Witnesses describe her as a beautiful young woman, her face obscured by a veil, lost in her own world as she dances to music only she can hear. Some speculate she's a former passenger who loved the ship so much she chose to spend her afterlife there. These chilling tales, each unique in their own way, add to the rich tapestry of ghostly encounters aboard the Queen Mary. From a tragically doomed crew member to a playful little girl to a solitary dancer, these spirits seem to have found a home within the ship's grand structure. They serve as a haunting reminder of the vessel's past, forever echoing through her corridors, making the Queen Mary much more than just a retired ocean liner. These tales serve as a reminder of the Queen Mary's haunted past. The Queen Mary, a ship with a history as turbulent as the seas it sailed, is now a silent sentinel with a ghostly crew. As we journey through the haunted history of the Queen Mary, we've traversed decades of spectral sightings, chilling encounters, and eerie occurrences. From the ship's maiden voyage to the war-torn years and onto the present day, the Queen Mary has been a vessel for the living, and it seems for the dead as well. The first hauntings were reported during her inaugural years as a luxury liner. The ship's captain, his daughter, and a mysterious woman in white were among the first apparitions witnessed, setting the stage for the myriad of ghostly tales that would follow. During the Second World War, the Queen Mary was drafted into service as a troop ship, carrying soldiers across the treacherous Atlantic. The spirits of these brave men are said to still linger, their ghostly forms spotted wandering the ship's decks, perhaps still waiting to reach their destination. As the war ended and the Queen Mary returned to her commercial duties, the ghostly sightings didn't cease. Instead, they seemed to increase, with apparitions of drowned sailors, phantom children, and even a spectral dog adding to the ship's haunted reputation. In recent times, guests have reported unexplained phenomena, from sudden temperature drops to disembodied voices. The ship's haunted history is a living one, continuing to grow with each new tale of ghostly encounters. But it's not just the individual stories that captivate us, it's how these tales interweave, creating a tapestry of the Queen Mary's past. Each ghostly sighting adds another thread to this spectral fabric, further enriching the ship's haunted allure. The Queen Mary is more than just a ship. She's a floating monument to history, both tangible and paranormal. These ghost stories aren't just chilling tales meant to spook us. They're an integral part of the Queen Mary's legacy. Each spirit that roams her decks, each phantom that whispers in her halls, adds another layer to her story. These spectral inhabitants give the Queen Mary a unique charm. They make her more than just a historic landmark. They transform her into a haunted haven, a place where the lines between the past and present blur, where history is not just remembered, but relived. So whether you're a history buff, a paranormal enthusiast, or just someone looking for a unique adventure, the Queen Mary is a destination like no other. She offers a glimpse into a past where luxury liners ruled the seas, where bravery was tested in the face of war, and where the veil between the living and the dead seems just a little bit thinner. Next time you find yourself in Long Beach, remember, the Queen Mary is waiting and you're never alone on board.